This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to this edition of AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. Throughout it, I and my guest will share ahas, insights, and tips to enhance and support your book publishing and book marketing journey. My goal is always to support you and your book success. So, if you're on Twitter, do connect with me on @MyBookShepherd. And if on Facebook, join my book publishing group to share your news or just ask questions. And you can always email me directly at judith@briles.com. Daily, I post throughout my social media world a favorite quote from my book, Snappy, Sassy, Salty Success for Authors and Writers. Today's quote is about marketing. Eyes wide open. Know what you're getting into when you start down the marketing path. It's a commitment, and rarely is it short term. With that said, back with us is Ruth Schwartz. Ruth is the founder and the CEO of Wonder Lady Books. She helps other self-published authors turn their finished manuscripts into finished books, complete with professional cover design, layout, and ebook editions. If you want to discover what Ruth is all about, just check out her website. It is simply thewonderlady.com. And with us is the Wonder Lady. Hey, Ruth, how are you?
I'm doing great, Judith. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad to have you back. Last week we played with Amazon's KDP. And this week we are playing with IngramSpark. And that both of us are under the strong impression and suggestion to you that you play with them both as well with that. So let's kind of jump in. And Ruth and I started with some do's and don'ts last week on KDP, and I think we should do it with IngramSpark. So Ruth, I'm going to let you open it up.
Okay, so there's a couple of do's around IngramSpark, and one is like the best reason to set your book up with IngramSpark is to get into the Ingram wholesale catalog, which is where bookstores and libraries can find you and order your book. Bookstores will not go on Amazon to buy your book. You know, Amazon is a competitor. They just won't go there. And why would they pay retail anyway? So you want to be in the Ingram wholesale catalog, and then bookstores and libraries can find you. So the caveat to that is, a big don't is, since we are recommending that you do both KDP and IngramSpark, never, ever walk into your local bookstore with a copy of the book that was printed by KDP. And believe me, the bookstore people will know. And it's easy to see that, IngramSpark does the back page differently. If you look at the very back page of your books that you get from KDP and IngramSpark, they just do it differently. And it's obvious to anyone in the know that, that book comes from KDP. There are bookstores here in the Bay Area that will not even talk to you, if you walk in with a KDP printed book. So if you want to get the attention of even just your local bookstore, then you need to list your book with IngramSpark in addition to doing KDP.
Mm-hmm. Or if you do have a short run, and yet you use
Yes, that's the
whichever.
other way. Yes.
Yeah, then you show them a good quality. Let me tell you a little tip and trick. This is going to be on my thing. If you want to do a book signing with a bookstore, especially a traditional brick and mortar like a Barnes and Noble bookstore, that they most likely are going to insist that they pull from Ingram for their book.
Right.
So that's why you do need it there. But let me give you another trick here that we have found, especially with children's books, Ruth, that the printing quality, color is just inferior. And we found, especially if you're going to do a short run, and a lot of our kids authors do runs of 1,000 or less books in addition to what they have on the print on demand model, is that they use the same IngramSpark ISBN on this short run. So if they run out of books, here's our trick. We tell them we get an agreement with the bookstore that we will they allow, if the books sell out at the book signing, that the author then can supply books directly with the same ISBN, and then the store can do their reimbursement later on. We've never had them turn us down. So what we do is we get them to order 5 books from Ingram to play the Ingram game. And then we have a case of books in the car. So we have a better quality upgraded.
Yeah. We can get into this a little bit more, but IngramSpark, does have 2 quality levels of printing, but it does get more expensive, especially for a children's book. But I want to also touch on the bookstore, the same concept that you talked about, Judith, but to do a short run like that and to do a consignment, so you can, you have your books, you've already paid for them, you set up a consignment deal with your local bookstore, and then you bring the books in, and it's often 50-50. But you're obviously covering the cost of the book, and if you're doing a short run, then your unit cost is less than if you're doing it with IngramSpark, and your quality will be better.
And you do have to understand, all of you. I did a blog in the month of May comparing the print with the links for both KDP and Ingram. And so people could figure out. And there was a dramatic difference in the cost per unit with IngramSpark, which was higher.
Yeah, their prices actually have been going up steadily for the last year. And I'm surprised that KDP is now, this is one thing we didn't mention last week, but they are now doing hardcover. And, there are some limitations to their hardcover right now. They're only case wraps, and they have to be 72 pages or more, so that kind of cuts out children's books. And there are only a limited number of trim sizes. But it's worth exploring, in terms of having your book up on Amazon in hardcover. But I haven't gotten to the bottom of that, whether, which is better, but the other, do about IngramSpark is if you are going to do a hardcover edition, especially for a children's book, they're pretty much the only POD game in town.
Right. But I'm just going to say there's a quality issue. We've had a consistent quality issue. And there's also, Ruth and I have both experienced, there is much more of a printing time involved.
Oh, yes.
In any books with them right now. One side of me, Ruth, wonders, all those big warehouses Amazon owns, is it all full of paper? Is that what they did? They filled it all with paper.
Who knows? Ingram. I mentioned to you that I was looking for a client's book on the Barnes and Noble website because I was going to order the hardcover through them rather than ordering it through their author account, which I have access to. and getting it wholesale, because it was going to take 10 days minimum for them to print the thing and then to ship it to me. Whereas if I get it through Barnes & Noble, Barnes & Noble is an e-retailer of the hardcover books, and they will, they have it on the shelf, basically.
And it's
So,
you want that ability, and you want since we have been talking about Barnes & Noble a lot, Barnes & Noble's new CEO, there is a huge change over going on within the Barnes & Noble environment. If those of you who have not been in one recently, you ought to go there, because they are really aggressively reaching out to support the community and the independent author. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, I have had clients tell me that they've gotten, book signing, appointments.
Absolutely.
Gotten on the book signing schedule easier at Barnes & Noble than other places.
I know. In fact, we have book signings in June, July, and August with multiple Barnes & Noble stories in Colorado for our authors.
Wow.
Yeah, and
great.
they bring them in. They love us because we put out press releases. We do aggressive social media. They said you bring in customers and you guys have fun, which makes it fun for our staff. I love a comment from a bookstore, with that deal. And I bring in, usually when I do those events, I bring in 8 authors at a time. And
wow.
we just have, we're there all day, 9 to 5. So,
that's a great concept, Judith. That's really good.
Yeah, we do that for our authors. Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the IngramSpark thing in terms of how they deal with author orders. Author copy orders.
Do that. But you know what,
orders.
Ruth, we have to take a quick break. I'm getting buzzes from my producer. So let's take a quick break. We're going to talk about how do we do orders with IngramSpark.
Yeah.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you? Or another? AuthorU shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual AuthorU extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. AuthorU is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover AuthorU, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join AuthorU today at AuthorU.org.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, we're talking about selling books here, and we're talking about using the vehicle called POD, or print on demand, and which is what many authors are using as option one 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been option one. But it is really an option to transition so they can keep their books in print, in control, without having to front a huge amount of monies to print and have them, maybe, especially us nonfiction authors, your book may not be valid in 2 years. Needs a redo, and you still have 1,000 copies. That doesn't sound good. All right, so with us is Ruth Schwartz. She is the CEO of WonderLadyBooks.com, and she works a lot with IngramSpark. So just before we took a break, we were going to talk about some of these options that are out there.
So in terms of, retail sales and things like that, is that what you're talking about?
Right. Or just you made a comment and I said, wait, we need to bring that back after the break.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's where you were.
I want to talk about when you have your book listed with IngramSpark, if you go in to order author copies, that the reason why it takes so long is that Ingram prioritizes retail orders from their bookstores and libraries over your order for your other copies. So that's what's happening. That's why, I think I mentioned offline, Judith, that I was putting together an order on the Barnes & Noble website of some hardcover editions because I wanted to see what they actually look like. But it would take me forever to get copies of those, through the author's, the back end of their IngramSpark account. But with Barnes & Noble, I could get it in less than a week.
Well, that would certainly be worthwhile. And look at the side-by-side comparison also with the quality.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot to be said for, why you have to set your book up in IngramSpark in addition to KDP. And I do want to reiterate, as we talked about last week, that you always want to do KDP first and then IngramSpark. And one of the reasons, there are lots of reasons that we talked about last week, but one of the reasons is that you want to make sure that the book is up on Amazon in a valid way. If you only go through IngramSpark, and I still hear about people who are just using IngramSpark, they think that KDP is like this unprofessional kind of approach, and that's just not the case anymore.
I would have said that. Yep, I would have said that 5 years ago for sure, sure. But we're seeing the quality, the print better, the paper better, the customer service. You can actually find someone to talk to if you.
Amazing, isn't that? And now they have chat also. KDP has a chat service. So let's talk about customer service with IngramSpark.
Oh, ugh.
Yeah, there basically isn't much.
Yeah, it's true.
They used to have a chat service, which was amazing. And I really like chat in general when I'm buying online or having to deal with, customer service online, because then I have a written record, of what happened, what we actually talked about. It's not just relying on my memory, and which can suffer sometimes, or even my notes. So I have everything in writing. But IngramSpark has narrowed everything down to email. So yes, it is in writing, but it takes them forever to get back to you. And I don't know what is going on over there or why they're having this narrowed down customer service. They used to have an 800 number that, yes, you could call, but you might be on hold for a half hour. But the chat used to work really well with them, and now, it's just not there. So IngramSpark for me is definitely a secondary, option in terms of indie publishing.
Yeah, we only do it because of the portal to get into the traditional type of bookstore and to have libraries can do it. I found that libraries are far more receptive. They don't worry, and you have to have the returnable feature too. There's one other big ding that's come in with Ingram lately that they picked up, besides they keep raising their prices, is that they have which used to be called a restocking fee. Now they have a returnable fee. So which can get, by the way, you're talking possibly $3 to $4. So all of you need to figure out, wait a sec. So if my book is, say, $15.95, well, let's do a 2 and an O because it's easier to multiply here. Let's say it's a $20 book, and that whatever let's say you've done a 40% discount of that. So it's, the stores buy it at $12. But then, they bought 10 of them or 20 for your book signing and only 10 sold. So they're sending back 10 of them. Do you realize that you could actually be owing money and not get anything here? And it's really important to understand this, what's going on. So with that said, you might want to say that, and because a lot of the bookstores are not even aware that this is going on. I mean, they truly are not, and they don't want to have authors hurt. So just ask them if they would give an additional special discount, and maybe you buy that remaining stock at a much lower price and clear it out instead of being dinged the other way.
That's assuming that you have the relationship with the bookstore directly. There are hopefully going to be bookstores that you've never interacted with that may buy your book. And so what my recommendation is to set up the returns, on the pricing page in your IngramSpark title setup. It will give the option to do yes, returned, in which case, Judith, you're absolutely right. They will sting you with the shipping costs and the return fees. Or yes, destroy, which means, yes, your books are destroyed, but you're not paying all that money, or getting charged all that money against your royalties, because they will reverse your royalties also. So you're going to be in the hole no matter what. But if you do yes, destroy, then the books are, in theory anyway, destroyed, and you don't have to pay anymore, but your royalties will still be backed out of your account. The other option is to say, no, you will not accept returns. But if you say, no, you will not accept returns, most self-respecting bookstores will not buy from you, will not buy your book.
I know, and that is a killer.
It is. Bookstore, but I have to say this, Judith, that bookstores, frankly, are the least profitable channel for anyone, who's an author these days. You're just not going to make as much money as you would, selling on Amazon, frankly. Or if you're out speaking, and doing back of the room sales, or if you're doing some kind of promotion, through your website. You're going to do better on all of those things than you would, through a bookstore, because your options of setting the wholesale discount, and you do have options in IngramSpark, is the standard option is 55%. And the reason it's 55% and not 40% is because Ingram is going to take 15%, no matter what. So if you set it at anything below 55%, that 15% is coming off anyway. So a bookstore might, if you set it at 40%, they get 25%. So yes, they could probably do it okay at 25%, but they would much prefer 40%.
Yes. So, and here's the other thing, as all of you can change these percentages. Maybe you've got a slew of them. You can go in and do the reduction. And I mean, now here's another thing y'all have to be aware of, that some of these other online retailers, what their business is to go buy books at the or bring them in at the lowest or the greatest discount, and then they resell them on your Amazon page. I don't know if you've experienced that, Ruth. We've seen that very common.
I have seen that. Yeah, when you have your book listed with IngramSpark,
yep,
then anyone can buy anyone who has access to an Ingram wholesale account can buy your book and then put it up on Amazon as a third-party seller.
That's right. And you kind person, if you did that big 55%, you are a ripe target for this kind of thing. And so that's why if your real objective is to not really be sold in bookstores as a regular thing, and I totally support what Ruth said, that typically they're not a great way to make money for us little guys, is that you do it by speaking, you do it by select events, you do it by those kind of things, is that where you're selling almost at full price, if not at the full price, and get instantly paid, which is what I like, that you want to reduce it to the lowest discount you can and just let it mind its own business. My experience, Ruth, is that libraries, number one, don't care about returnable books because that's not what they do. And right. Two, they don't worry about getting a hefty discount. They don't. And what I also love about libraries is they pay right away. So I think it's very cool.
Yes. Yeah. But that's a whole other conversation about selling to libraries. The premise is you do want to be in the Ingram catalog just in case. You don't want, some bookstore to go looking for your book and not be able to find it.
Exactly.
Even if you have the discount set low. And yes, you can go in and change the discount. You can change your prices. But the timing around those changes, IngramSpark will not change things right away. They will put it off to the following week. They do it all as a wholesale, update on their feed to their retailers. So if you have some sort of campaign you want to do and you want to do it at a lower price, yes, you can go in and change the price and you can change the discount, but you need to know that it's not going to take effect until a week later.
So that means it's called planning, everyone. We're going to be right back. We're going to take one more break but this is really important to understand these concepts.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, this is our discussion today is IngramSpark, which is certainly where you do need to have your book listed. If you are an independent or a self-publisher, if your goal is to have libraries pick you up, or to be featured, or to do a book signing with a non-independent bookstore. Some of the independent bookstores insist on going through Ingram too, but a lot of the independents will do a consignment directly. So you should always ask if there is a consignment possibility with a bookstore, because that might give you another avenue to go through. But one of the things that I was telling Ruth when we were off air was that we had a client with a large fantasy book. And when we did our pricing between IngramSpark and Amazon, he would actually owe $1 more. He would have to pay $1 for every book that was sold in a bookstore. He would get nothing. You understand this? He would get zero, and he'd have to pay in because of the cost. When we did the price stuff with Amazon, it was $1.50 less a book.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of shocking.
Also, yeah, and IngramSpark won't let you set your price at that level where he would have to pay $1. They will not even complete the listing, because they don't want to play that game. They want to make money.
But it's a shock to think you've got it all right. And the thing was, his book was priced at the right level it should be priced at in relationship to other books in his genre. And that also is something you all need to do, checking out when you do your competitive homework, is that, because one of the questions I bet you, Ruth, you get asked it, what should I price my book at?
Oh, yeah.
And so what's the normality of what you're doing? You got to know that.
You got to know what other people in your field, especially for nonfiction, are doing. And you have to, look at what the royalty is that you'll get. And you want to be able to set your price, like before you even do your listing in KDP. You want to get clear what it's going to look like, both with KDP and with IngramSpark. And there are great online calculators. That is one of the things that Ingram has done well, is they have a great page that is an online calculator, and KDP now has one also. So you want to go back and forth and just play with it to make sure that you're going to be pricing your book correctly. Another thing I want to say about pricing, Judith, I don't know how you feel about this, but bookstores are the only channel that really like to have the price on the back cover. Maybe if you're out doing speaking engagements, you want to show that you're discounting the book, you're giving the people, the attendees, a really good deal. But I recommend not putting a printed price on the back cover of the book now.
Are you talking about the separate price that was like up at the top of the book?
Either there, or even not embedding the price in the barcode. Because if you do that with IngramSpark, if you change the price, you have to redo the cover. So, that's not fun, to have to go back and do that. And
so the advice is just skip that point, which everyone was embedding the price in it. So just skip it.
Yeah, because the overall goal here as indie publishers is to have books that look and read as good as anything a traditional publisher will turn out. Well, that includes in having the price embedded in the barcode. But as time has gone on, it's not that essential. And I've asked a number of bookstores whether they care anymore, and they don't, because they're going to put their own sticker over the barcode anyway. So
I haven't seen that many bookstores put stickers, pricing stickers.
I have.
Okay.
They will price the book where they want to price it, and so sometimes it's less, than the price you set as the publisher. Sometimes it's more. It depends on what they have to do. For instance, if you set the discount in IngramSpark at 40%, and then the bookstore is getting 25 when they buy from Ingram, but that's not quite enough profit margin for them, then they will, put a sticker on top of the barcode in the back, and with that has their
raise
price
the
embedded
price
and raise the price. Yes, I've seen that happen.
I get that totally. My experience is that if you're going in, I'm going to use my Barnes & Noble as an example. When we go in, most of us have gone ahead. We don't do 55 anymore. We set it at 40 for Ingram. And they're happy with that because they know they're going to sell out all the books.
Ah.
So that's something else you all might want to think about. You be prepared to either you're going to buy them yourself, so it's sold out, so they get the full enchilada of their 25% because of the 15% that Ingram charges here, and you don't have to deal with returns. But anyway, that's what we do. They seem to be okay with that.
It's interesting.
I know.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
It's crazy. Here's what also we've seen them.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's what else we have seen, that this is the changeover in the Barnes & Noble, is that they don't return. It used to be that they would just shoot stuff back right away for what wasn't sold. That what we're seeing them is they move them to they don't want to return anything if they can do it. They want to sell all their inventory. So they have, like, if you're a local author, let's say you're in Duluth, and you're doing a book signing there, that they would have a special table for local authors out there and feature there, and then they would move it to then a final table, which would be a discount, a deep discount table, and that seems to be working fairly well for them. That's just something I've observed in the last 4 months.
Yeah, well, I remember that Barnes and Noble started out as a quote remainder, bookstore that many years ago, and that they specialized in buying the remainder from the traditional publishers when the traditional publishers gave it the 6 months or so that they were going to use to market a book, and then they would have the rest of the print run left over. Barnes and Noble would pick up that amount of books, and that's what they sold in their store. That's how they got their inventory originally. So it's interesting that they do that discounting thing, and I'm sure indie bookstores are doing a similar operation. But the bottom line is, yeah, I would hope so too. The bottom line is that bookstores still are going to be the least profitable channel, on a unit cost basis, and unit royalty basis. Yeah. However, if you're doing what you're talking about, Judith, of doing a big campaign around a bookstore signing, or the book is going to be in a bunch of bookstores all at the same time, then that's a different story. But no matter what, you want to do KDP first, and then you want to do IngramSpark, and just do the best you can around having your book up in IngramSpark, for the bookstore and library market. And it is essential for the library market.
Yeah, I'm so glad, Ruth, you said again that you do KDP first and Ingram second, because I just had a client who thought, okay, well, I'll get it up on IngramSpark, and then he went over to KDP, and then he ran into all kinds of hassles because, well, this book has already been published, just as you referred to last week. This book has been published. This ISBN has already been taken. It was just awful what we went through to get him back on. So
I know. It's really it's amazing sometimes to me, how challenging things can be in this indie publishing world. There are so many details involved, and you can miss have a misstep every once in a while, and sometimes it's, a bad one, and sometimes it's just a little one, and you can recover from it. And sometimes it's things being done to you, by these entities, called, POD publishing.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's, it is, but it's also worth it. If you are an author and you really want your book out there, it can be done. Just make sure you do it well. That's all I can say.
Ruth, do they still have the espresso machines out there? Remember how print on demand started?
Yes. Well, I have not seen one. Of course, I haven't been in a bookstore recently, but, I've heard that they're not, prevalent. They're not, they didn't take off, like they thought they would. But I remember being at a conference in New York, actually, where this was back in 2012 when I first started, getting into, doing this for other people. That the espresso machine was all the rage, but I haven't heard much about it recently.
Well, they were fascinating to watch. I remember
yes,
watching
they were.
the process. Yeah,
they were. Yeah.
But it just dropped in. Man, I haven't heard that phrase in so long. Well, let's do this wrap up on the on using IngramSpark and Amazon. I mean, we still have some time to go before our show's over here, but that if you want to do book signings, you need to be on IngramSpark. You just need to have that ability for them to pull from it. Plus, you've got the catalog that you are findable, because that's the first thing they do. If you ever go into an information in any bookstore, they're in that catalog looking for your book. So make sure that you are findable on that. And then the other thing is that if you're going to doing promotions and libraries and trying to get libraries to carry your books, and there's a whole campaign you can do for that, you need to be in Ingram to make that work on that.
Exactly.
So it's important, but the return costs can be very high. So know what you're doing. So, and if you're going to do these signings, I want to encourage all of you, please make sure you do press releases, that people know it's going out. You've got Meetup is everywhere. Put it up in the groups you belong to, put it on all your social media, and for heaven's sakes, go to your hub and announce it, and then push it out social media. The bookstore will love you. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Are you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them and from someone who knows publishing inside and out, from both the traditional and independent sides, how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. Sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com. The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author, You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, in our last segment with Ruth Schwartz, the Wonder Lady, that we do want to talk about it's a couple of issues that are different also on production with IngramSpark and KDP. So, Ruth, you want to jump on that?
Yeah, for your paperback, the only thing you need to do in terms of the files that you set up and uploaded to KDP that you want to upload to IngramSpark is you have to adjust the spine on the book. And most, good book designers will know that, if you're doing this yourself and you have the skills to do a good book cover, then, you just know that your spine width is going to be different because, frankly, they use different paper, different thicknesses. So, but the interior file can be exactly the same. You don't have to do anything with it whatsoever.
And that would be thank God.
Yes, exactly. However, I have found that IngramSpark is fussier about the technical specs of the files than KDP is. KDP just handles stuff, behind the scenes. But I had one recently where the designer had not embedded the fonts. And I bet that, Judith, you mentioned to me another time that you had some kickback that from IngramSpark that, the fonts weren't licensed. I bet it was because the fonts weren't embedded.
Yes. Yeah. That was a licensing question. And even questioning if the author had the copyright
license.
Yes. It's just like, please.
Yeah, I know. And I had a situation, this is like a little off topic, but not really. I had a client who had posted sections of his book on his website. And actually, it wasn't even IngramSpark, it was KDP that found, the content on the website and said, but you're copying this content in your book. But wait a minute, it's my website,
Yes, yes. Well, or it's already published under someone else's name because the publisher's name is different from your name.
Right.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah.
Ruth, I would love to have you kiss on. We did mention the categories and things like that, and there is a different. I find IngramSpark's formatting takes longer to get through than KDP's. Amazon's KDPs when I'm putting a book up, and that they do get into the basic, the basics things where you can choose the two and going down. But I think that one of the areas that IngramSpark did excel at is that they were very supportive of adding buku metadata in your descriptor.
Yes. So, first of all, they will allow you 3 initial categories, not just 2 like KDP. Secondly, you can list keywords ad nauseum until you get up to their maximum character count, and I don't remember what it is, and I don't think I've ever hit it.
It's huge.
Yeah. Also, they have a field called short description, and it is really short. It is 250 bytes. We don't talk about bytes that much, but it's essentially 250 characters. But if you do any kind of formatting, then that eats up bytes. So it will tell you down in the corner how many bytes you've used, and you just have to make it work. And that is something that goes into the Ingram catalog. That's, when bookstores are looking, into the catalog from, their account, the first thing they see is the title and the author, the subtitle, and then they see the short description. So I strongly recommend that you take the time to figure out that short description, and it is a real exercise in concise writing. So,
Yeah, I'm going to highly recommend that. And I said, I've actually been a little bit loose on that. And I said, oh, really? I just gave you this full detail above, pull it. That if you really want a good shorthand to help you here, I am a huge proponent of the New York Times book review. And when you open up the book review, that you have everyone has a one-liner. Usually it's no more than one sentence. And this is going to be this 250 characters we're talking about. That is the descriptor of what this book is about. And it will help you get into the mentality of doing that. So that one of the things that I'm going to suggest I have a Friday coaching group I always do, that to all my people on this Friday is that they are to go into all their Ingram accounts and make sure they did not skip that box and add in those descriptors.
Frankly, now it's easy to skip, because what they've done with the IngramSpark setup is they'll have a drop-down menu that you have to click on to get more options for that particular area. And the short description is one of those. So you want to make sure you always click and fill out as much of that metadata as you can, because it will help you.
I tell you, Ruth, this is probably one of the most important tips we can give them right now.
I know.
To do.
There's one more thing about IngramSpark, though, that I want to mention from the production side, and that is that they now have sort of this book builder engine in there. And I had one client who was doing it themselves and had to be rescued, because they didn't, use that book builder engine, quite right. And I don't recommend it. I don't think that people who are doing, indie publishing, quote, professionally, should be using something like that. And also, if you create your book over there with that, technology, then you can't go back and use that, the result there, the PDF necessarily, over on KDP. It won't necessarily work. So, you want to have a professional designer, ideally, work with you on your covers and your interior layout, and then upload those files both to KDP and then to IngramSpark.
Well, I'm a huge proponent. You don't have to twist my leg on that. And I see too many books look like they did figure out what that spine was, and maybe they shouldn't have. I'm just saying it's a challenge, and I know that everyone wants to save, but you got to be careful. With that, Ruth, I want to thank you for really being here with us today and sharing with last week and this week great information for Amazon and KDP
and IngramSpark.
And here I am keeping it going in IngramSpark going on. So these tips I tell you, sometimes my brain is fogged.
I know. Well, thank you, Judith. I had a great time, and I just hope people, learned a few new things from us.
I think they did. And then your website again, let's hit on that. It's thewonderlady.com. And,
right.
yeah, go ahead.
and there is a story on that website about how that Wonder Lady thing came about.
How?
My husband, actually, before we got married, when we were just dating, I came up with exactly the amount of money that I needed to pay off some bills. And he said, how did you do that? You know, it came in the form of a early inheritance check from my dad. And he said, how did you do that? It's the exact amount. And I said, I just did it, you know, just the universe. And he said, well, you're really the Wonder Lady. That's just amazing. And so he's been calling me that ever since. And when I started setting up business names, I thought, okay, Wonder Lady would be a fun way to be in business.
I think so too. And you know, Ruth, when we create these books, sometimes it truly is a wonder.
It is.
Sometimes I'm in wonder that I get through some of them. But with that said, with all of you. So Ruth, again, thank you so much for being with us today. And if all of you that, again, her website is thewonderlady.com. You can email her at ruth@thewonderlady.com. Hey, and if you just really a quick question, I'm going to give you the phone number. It's 415-515-9003. Ruth, look forward to doing a program for BAPA here for your group here soon.
Oh, yes, yeah. The BAPA program is definitely coming up.
Yep, it is. All right. All of you.
Take care.
Hey, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with me today and on the AuthorU-Your Guide to Book Publishing podcast. Make sure that you go to our show page at bit.ly/book publishing podcast to select from over 550 podcast episodes to learn and listen to. And don't forget to connect with me on my Twitter account via @mybookshepherd. And last but not least, if you know an aspiring author who is at least 16 years of age, who is a resident of Colorado, do you know that the Authors Hall of Fame will be giving out several $2,000 scholarships to help you publish? You find out about it, just go to the Hall of Fame's website. It's coloradoauthorshall-of-fame.org. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.